And today I'm with Appy Choudhary, who's the head of sales development at Blend. Appy, great to have you with me.
Thanks for having me, Mac. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm happy that I'm here on your podcast.
Well, we feel very, very fortunate. Appy, you've been through a number of our programs. You've sent a bunch of your people. So really part of the SASE family and community. So very much appreciate you. And I was excited to have this conversation because goodness me, you've been through some serious growth at an exciting company that I want to talk to you about. And really, this chat's going to be about hiring, diversity, building successful teams and whatnot. But to get started, let's give people some context. Can you share with us your head of sales development at Blend? What does Blend do and who do they serve?
Blend is a digital lending platform that helps the mortgage and consumer banking products go smoother and faster. And we basically sell into all sorts of financial institutions, mostly banks, credit unions, and independent mortgage banks. So that's what we do. We've been in existence for the last 9 years. Initial 8 years, we were selling our mortgage product, and we did a pretty successful job in doing that. In fact, 1/3 of all the mortgages happening in this country go through Blend's platform. And before a year, we launched a new suite of product called our consumer banking suite, which includes deposit accounts, credit cards, home loans, auto loans, and all of the good stuff. So now expanding that product and trying to generate a lot of pipeline for Blend in that aspect.
I love it. And listening to this, you're very much selling to the upper mid-market enterprise space. And so what I'm fascinated to learn today is about how you build teams, right? And make them successful. So we could kick off first perhaps with hiring. If you think about the mix of folks that you're bringing into the organization, those with previous SDR or BDR experience versus those who don't and you need to develop from scratch, what's the mix? How do you think about that?
It depends. So the team structured over here at Blend is mid-market, enterprise, and strategic accounts. So the folks I try to hire in the enterprise and strategic space, I like to get folks who have experience either within this space, who know the mortgage industry really well, or who know the SDR function really well, who know how to use Salesforce, Outreach, Salesloft, Gong, Chorus, Sendoso, Postal.ai, and all these tools, so that I can probably save 2-3 months of onboarding. Compared to when I'm trying to hire on the mid-market team, it's folks that don't necessarily have SDR experience, but have a grit, want to get into tech sales, want to get coached and move up the ladder.
Got it. Now, look, as we're speaking now, it's Q4 calendar in 2021, which is a time when it's very, very hard to get talent and to attract their attention. So you're doing it very, very successfully. So I'd love for you to explain to folks, how do you articulate the opportunity or the context for what you promise people that's going to bring them in? How do you get people to join? What is the messaging that gets them in?
I think so. I myself have been working with my recruiting team to do a lot of outbounding to get candidates, because it's, as you said, it's a really hot market. It's difficult to find and hire the right people, and specifically for folks and leaders who really consider a diverse team. Like, diversity is pretty important for me. So to hire a diverse group of people, it's difficult to get them. So few things I really consider when I'm having these initial phone conversations, or as a matter of fact, even before that, as part of my outreach, is it's divided in two things. It's the company, how great the company is, because you're going to be associated with that brand. And luckily, Blend, I mean, I've been at Blend for a year and 9 months. And since I have joined, we've raised big rounds of funding twice. We've acquired a company of more than 500 million. And we've gone public. We've gone IPO back in July. So there's a lot of positive momentum at Blend. So that makes my job easy in terms of representing the brand and company. And on the other side, when thinking about the role, I think it's a lot about the onboarding plan, how the leaders care about the development, uncapped commission model, as well as uh, teamwork and collaboration with the account executive team, and then finally a promotion track. Like, because as we all know, an SDR function is basically a stepping stone for every individual. So, what's the career plan for someone who joins on the mid market team compared to an enterprise team, compared to a strat team? And when is the right time they can move on to the next opportunity within Blend after successfully completing their tenure? So, showing these things to them becomes really important.
Help me understand. I want to come back to this concept of diversity because, as you know, it's sort of core to our heart at SASE. But before we do, um, you collaborate with the recruiting team. Can you tell me understand with job descriptions and the way that you're marketing these roles, how do you convey what you just said to me online? Is there some way that people get an insight to that before you speak to them?
So, the job description is pretty similar to what a job an SDR job description looks like in the market, but the outbound emails that are going through my Blend email as well as my LinkedIn to candidates, it includes the things like uh, 60% of my team has been promoted in the last 12 months. We have an uncapped commission policy where the top performers are making 150% of their OTE. Uh, and there's a career development plan put in place for every individual rep on the team.
I love it. I love it.
So these are the bullets that work really well and get a lot of candidates excited. And then when they jump on the first call with the recruiter elaborates on these things in detail and they get excited to jump on to the next step.
Are you using any of these recruiting landing pages where they have videos of your existing SDRs or AEs talking about their experience? Is that something you include in the mix?
No, not really. I'd love to, but I haven't reached that level yet.
I
I am
think that's like, I mean, I
encouraging.
know how happy your team are and how well they're doing. So why not use them to sell the opportunity?
That's a great point. I'll definitely take a note, Matt. And I did ask a couple of them, encourage them to write a blog post. Maybe I could use that. But no, thanks for the idea. This is great.
Right. So let's go back to diversity for a minute. Now, this is going to sound like a silly question to you, but I think it's important to call out to a lot of folks. A lot of people talk about the importance of having a diverse team, but why? Why is it important, not only to you personally, but for the company to have a diverse team?
I'm glad you're asking this because I mean, and I'm glad in a spot where I can answer this that definitely diversity is important to me, but also it's important to Blend as a company. Like we make sure we are having diverse groups, we are having 50% men, 50% women on teams, and all of that. But in general, to answer your question, Matt, I've noticed that the SDR function is a function where people bring all sorts of different experiences to the table. You know, there's someone on my team who's a fresh college graduate. There's someone on my team who's done door to door sellings. There's someone on my team who's in their late 40s, who have kids, and who've been selling stuff in T Mobile and Best Buy. And why diversity becomes important is because all these skill sets are very different. And when all of them bring to the table, they share their experiences and learn from each other. That's why a diverse group becomes very important.
Yes, I think it's a wonderful point to make. And if you think about the people that you're selling to, the broad community of prospects and customers, you have to be representative of them. And as you change your focus, you said earlier there was a change in the focus of Blend in the last couple of years. You want different perspectives to help you think more broadly about how you'll do that. And where do these perspectives come from? They come up from different lived experiences, different belief systems, and therefore the values they bring that represent those of your customers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for us also to indicate or highlight to people that not only is there diversity in gender identity, but there's intersectionality is what a lot of folks in DEI call it, which means that we have so many different aspects of our upbringing and our identities and who we are, that this crossover, I'm not just a white male guy. I'm also a white male guy who's middle-aged, that comes from New Zealand, etc. There are lots of different parts of things that make up my identity, and we can all contribute different things, right, based on that mixture of identities.
Yes, exactly. In fact, whenever I come up with a hiring plan for next year or the following years, I do make sure that I somewhat have in my mind that these are the kind of different diverse folks I want to hire within the next 6 to 12 months.
Oh, that's great. And tell me about this. Some companies are doing a very good job of attracting a diverse range of candidates, but they're failing in that they're not, when they're onboarding them and bringing them into the organization, people are not feeling welcome, respected, or valued. And therefore, they bail out within 6 months. And that's a real shame. That's a failure. How are you making sure that everybody feels welcome, respected, and valued when they come on, bringing their different perspectives, the different life circumstances, and so forth?
So there are two things. First of all, Blend as a company has done really well in that aspect. So these new folks feel welcomed. We have a lot of ERGs, employee resource groups. So every new employee, if they're diverse, I highly encourage them during their onboarding plan that they should join that ERG so that they can feel a part of the community. We have ERG Asian, we have Blendismo, we have uh, there are a lot of ERG groups at Blend that support that. So that's the first part. From my side, on the SDR team, we have a buddy program I've created, and I make sure that the buddy is respectful of all of this and also talks about diversity, and make sure that they are answering and supporting all the questions the new candidate has during the initial 30 to 60-day period. So that's the other piece that has worked really well for us,
I
Matt.
like that. And something I want to call out for viewers and listeners, there's no such thing as a diverse person. There is only a diverse team. And a lot of people make that mistake that are my colored skin, because they talk about a diverse person as being somebody who is other than white. And that's bullshit, especially if you think about, if we're running a business in Nigeria, then what is diverse, right? So we must get people to think about the diversity of our teams as opposed to having a diverse identity. It's a small but important language nuance I hope everyone picks up from our conversation today.
No, great.
Yeah.
That's a valid point.
And so let's talk more about the SDR role. It's such an interesting and evolved role. It's sort of formally been around perhaps since the early 2000s. And I would love to get your perspective on how the SDR role itself can bring more impact and value to the organization. You gave me some hints before about how in your world you're thinking about customer success focused things. And I was talking to an organization the other day, and they're talking about customer success qualified leads, which comes from CSMs. But it's very interesting. How are you seeing the role of the SDR evolve?
So part of my job as we are scaling and growing is to think about how to make this role more impactful and more valuable to the org, because the skill set this role brings into a company, there's literally no one in the company who can do cold calls like an SDR. There's no one on the company who can write such good emails by spending so little time. And there's no one in the company who knows how to use all these tools that are needed for outreach. So thinking about all of this, I've been proposing internal changes, and I'm glad that I have support. But usage adoption is one piece of the SDR motion that I'm changing at Blend. And to talk more about it, Matt, we've sold to a couple of big banks and credit unions. But now the challenge we see is that the end user at the bank or the credit union is not really using Blend effectively, because they don't know how to use it. They don't like Blend. They like how they were using the manual process, or whatever reason. They don't want to go through the change. So now where my team comes into play is, my team is actually making cold calls, sending personalized emails to these end users within these banks with the support of the account executive and CSM, and asking these questions. Why are they using Blend? Why are they not using Blend? What do they like about Blend? What do they not like about Blend? And if they don't understand something, setting up calls with the CSM. This is helping the CSM team a lot. And we did a pilot program. It went super positive, and that's when I have, all CSM leaders come to me and talk about how much they respect the org and how much value this team can bring. So that's on the usage adoption piece. The second thing is cross sell opportunities. So as I shared, there are two products Blend sells: the mortgage product and the consumer banking product. Now we have a lot of customers on the mortgage product because that's what we were doing for the initial 8 years. And then now my team earlier were not going after existing customers, and it was just the AE and the CSM team. But recently we realized that there are a lot of moving pieces in a bank and a business. People are leaving companies, going to other companies. Contact information is changing. In the pandemic, it's difficult to find out who's where and what are they doing. So now my team has become a center of attraction for this group, where if we want to cross sell, upsell a different product within an existing customer, then helping in building organizational charts, finding the right contact information, and reaching out to the people. So that's the other motion I've been changing in Q4 and more of 2022. And the third piece to it is I'm adding a new junior data role on the team. And this person is basically going to be someone who's really early in their career, basically a fresh college graduate or someone who's very early in their career, and they are going to be responsible for manually finding, entering, and verifying data on our Salesforce.
I'm loving this. So when I started in my career, I was a junior, an associate account manager, which basically meant I worked with an account director on half a dozen massive enterprise accounts. And I just did whatever he wanted. Most of my income was salary. And then I had a small amount of incentive based on his goal. How are you thinking about incentivizing these SDRs who are doing things like account org structure build out and things like that are not sort of, setting meetings or creating opportunities? How are you thinking about that?
On the org structure side, I mean, we're trying to compensate because that's a pretty strategic role.
Yeah.
And we're compensating the team on closed won revenue.
Associated with a single rep or two reps or a team?
Associated with a single rep.
Very good. Okay. And I like that. The challenge, of course, being that if you have a rep who's no good, then it can be a bit tricky, but I get it. Okay. I like that. And I like the apprenticeship model because they're learning, no doubt, by sitting at the side of that rep and understanding how they're thinking about building the account. Yeah.
Yeah. They're also a part of the QBRs, the account executives and CSMs do with these accounts, prospect accounts. So they get to learn a lot from them too.
So that's interesting because that was a question I had for you, which is in an organization like yours, where the first role is not transactional, it's actually upper mid-market and then, big accounts. How do you provide a career path from SDR to AE? In doing the sorts of things you're talking about, is that how you're grooming people to be their own first account manager?
Yes, you're absolutely right. In fact, when I hire SDRs, I let them know in advance that in general, it's a pretty senior, it's a pretty strategic SDR role where you're not just setting meetings, but you're actually uh, doing discovery calls and actually taking it to a certain stage on Salesforce, for which you need to work hand in hand. So it's a points-based system on how they get compensated. They get certain points when they have the first meeting completed. They get more points when it reaches to the second conversation, and they get more points when it reaches to a negotiation stage. And that's when they completely achieve their quota. And that gives them an opportunity to be associated with the prospect and the account till a later stage. And what I have seen is when I have recently promoted my folks to become an account executive, they already know half of the process on how to close a deal, which is very different than an SDR role outside Blend. When folks get promoted into an account executive role, they literally don't know much about what to do after the first meeting.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the fact that you have this best practice, which is you pay people on the outcomes that they can control, which is if I get a deal to negotiation, my job's done, right? If the rep can't close it, that's not my fault. But the SDR has completed the mission, which is to get a very well qualified account to a certain stage. So I love that. And I wish everybody would do it. So look, as we head into the last part of our chat, I'm really fascinated to learn more about how you've built culture, because that's how you both attract, retain, and inspire your people to do their best work. So can you just sort of generally explain to us, so what does the experience of Blend feel like for your people? What's it like culture? What are some of the behavioral norms that you have that you could share with me?
So culture is very important for me and my team at Blend. I think if you have a good culture on the team, it's easy to get anything done, and it's easy to get buy-in from reps for all the new experiments, messaging, new kind of personas we are reaching out. And if you don't have the right culture, it's going to be really difficult. And few things I do to make a healthy culture is basically make sure that whenever I'm hiring a new rep, they get some hands-on one-on-one time with each member of the team so that they get to gel along with them. The second thing is, for fun, we have a monthly pizza party where everyone gets a random pizza from their neighborhood, and we just talk about something, play a game, and not talk about work. The third thing is, it's I like to have a very collaborative culture on the team where people are sharing learnings with each other, passing off leads to each other whenever relevant, and not a very tough and a competitive culture, because at the end, I need to scale and grow. And to make sure scaling and growing the team is easy, collaboration is more important than having a very competitive culture. So that's the third piece. And then finally, I think for on the culture aspect, you know, I've built a culture where everyone can give constructive feedback to each other. To share an example, we do a weekly call review session where we get 5 random calls from the STR team. All of us listen to the call together. All of us use Gong scorecard methodology and give a rating to the call, and everyone openly, candidly gives feedback on the call in front of everyone. That definitely makes peers learn from their peers, not just their managers, but it also enables them and gives them an opportunity to learn how to give feedback, because everyone wants to become a leader. And when you become a leader, you know how to actually give feedback to someone. That's a very important skill, and I'm glad that they get an opportunity to learn that over here.
I love that. So many great lessons in this short chat we've had. It's awesome. So now I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. We've known each other for a few years, and I remember the first time we really had a nice chat was actually at a SASE holiday party in San Francisco, and I'll never forget it. So much positive energy. And so in the last few years, I clearly your ability to hire the right sort of people, to build culture, to develop people has become sort of a superpower for you. But if you're talking to other leaders who want to find themselves in the position you're in, which is very enviable, you know, you're in a great position, what would you say that you've picked up as sort of the most important thing to focus on as a leader to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself?
I'd summarize it in basically 3 points, Matt. The first is hiring. Like I've hired in the last 3 years of my career, I've hired 45 reps on my own. So understanding, knowing what to hire for, how to hire, and who to hire has been the best skill I've developed. The second thing is having a career development plan, because every rep wants to see their growth. wants to see that their leader, their managers care about their growth. So making sure focusing on that, that's the second piece. And then the third thing is, on a daily basis, I spend 30 minutes thinking, how can this team be more impactful? Because I think as leaders, we're so much into the day-to-day execution of setting up reps for success and messaging and enablement session and coaching, that at the end of the day, we forget that how can this team be more impactful? And I got this as a lesson from my leader at Blend. They told me that, Appy, I see your calendar and you're in meetings all day. Because you're in meetings all day, when do you actually think? And that gave me an opportunity to actually spare 30 minutes on a daily basis where I just have a pen and paper and I'm thinking, how can this team, the skill set of each individual rep on my team, be more impactful at Blend? And that's where I get these ideas such as usage adoption, cross sell, data help, and all of these great things.
I love it. So many points of wisdom shared today. I really appreciate this. I love the way you think, Appy. And look, I hope this won't be the last time that we speak like this. I hope that in 2022, we can come back and do a bit of a retrospective to see the progress you've made and the new learnings, because you're a very thoughtful guy. And I'm sure you'll have some more revelations in the next 12 months. So thank you so much. And do I get to see you at this year's holiday party? I do, right?
Of course, I'm not going to miss your holiday party, Matt. I look
Fantastic.
forward to
Appy,
them.
it's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Same here, Matt. Thanks again. Thanks again for Sassy and everything you do at Sassy. It's been really helpful. I've seen my managers really up level after going through your courses. So thanks for doing what you're doing.
You're most welcome. Take care.
Take care, Matt.